Hello everyone, and welcome to this session titled Top Tips for Ielts. I'm Andrea Scott, and I'm the Senior Global Product Champion. Just a little bit of background information about myself. I was the admissions director for the graduate school at the University of Minnesota for 15 years until I retired. And then I was very pleased to be able to take this position with Ielts. So I was very familiar with Ielts before I started working for the test, and was very pleased to be able to spread the word about what a top quality test Ielts is. So I'm going to be talking to you today about Ielts, and also hopefully provide some information for you that you can take away at the end of the session. As I said, I'm going to be talking about what Ielts is, and also what makes Ielts the first choice for English test takers around the world. Then I'm going to go on with a section of the talk about preparation and resources for Ielts, focusing on what the British Council can provide to you to successfully complete the test. And then I'm going to close with a great many tips about how you can do very well when you do take the Ielts test. Ielts stands for, that IELTS stands for the International English Language Testing System. And our test is designed to assess the English language ability of non-native English speakers who want to show their English language ability for study or work in an environment where English is the language of communication. We're the original 4 skills English test, and what that means is that we test reading, listening, writing, and speaking. When we say we're the original, for many years we were the only English test that did have a speaking section on the test. And it's that speaking section for which we are widely known and recognized, because the speaking test is a one-on-one personal interview. What Ielts is not is a test of your grammatical ability, or it is not a test of your academic or study skills ability, nor is it a test of a particular discipline. We use many different areas of study on the test, but all of that is intended strictly for assessing your English language ability. Excuse the skipping ahead there. We have 2 versions of Ielts. One is for general training, and the other is for academic. The general training module is used for immigration and vocational education and work assessment, and the academic module is used for admission to colleges and universities around the world, as well as for professional registration or certification. And Ielts is really the world's most popular English test for higher education and global migration. This graph is an indication of that, pictorially showing the explosive growth that we have had in the number of candidates who are taking Ielts. That little teeny bar on the far left there in 2000 represents the 57,000 tests we administered back then. And if you go to the right, we were very excited in the year 2013 to pass the 2 million mark, when we actually administered 2.2 million tests. And why is Ielts so popular? Well, there are a number of reasons, starting with it is a fair and reliable test. Because it is so reliable in assessing your English language ability, it is well recognized for the quality of the test. The test is a test of international English because we feel that that is reflective of the real world today, and that is one of the reasons that the recipients of our test scores do rely on Ielts so highly. By international English, I mean that our item writers for the test questions are from different countries, including the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, and the source material for our questions come from English language publications from around the world. Also, our listening test uses speakers who speak with North American, Australian, and British accents, which again we feel is what you would experience in the world today from different English language speakers. As I mentioned early on, our speaking test is one of the things that we are known for, and that is one of the other reasons that recipients of the test find the test so reliable. The speaking test is reflective of what you will be doing when you are speaking, working, or studying, and so the recipients do totally trust the results of that test. We are a fair test for anyone and anyone anywhere, and we have a great respect, diversity of nationality, background, gender, and lifestyle, and we are committed to producing a test which is unbiased, and the way we do that is producing ongoing research to make sure that our test is a test we all can trust. Another reason that Ielts is so popular is that it is accepted by over 9,000 organizations in over 135 countries, and it's very important to realize that 3,000 of those accepting organizations are institutions in the U.S. So fully 1/3 of our recipients of scores are United States institutions. Another reason the test is so popular is how available it is. This map represents all of the countries where Ielts has testing centers. We have over 900 locations in more than 130 countries, and that includes over 50 testing centers within the United States. And both the local network and the USA network are expanding all the time. So most certainly there will be a test center near you. And to find out where that test center is, you should go to www.takeielts.org. That is a very important URL for you to remember, and I will be mentioning it throughout this presentation because it is the most important resource that you have available to you. If you go to takeielts.org, you will be able to, by country, see where the test centers are, and then once you have gone to your country, you can click on the cities where Ielts is being offered and locate the test center within the city that is closest to you. In addition, when you click on more information, you will be able to find out when the test is given, the cost of the test, a hot link to the website for the test center, and because many of our test centers have online registration, that's where you would find out if you can register right then and there. One more reason that Ielts is so popular is because of its accessibility. We offer the tests on Saturdays and Thursdays, and it could be as much as 4 test dates a month at a particular test center. That is one of the greatest frequencies of English language tests around the world. Dependent on the demand for the test at a particular test center area, you may have those 48 test dates each month or year, 4 test dates a month, which comes out to 48 test dates a year if the demand is great. However, if there aren't that many candidates signing up for taking Ielts at a particular test center, then it might only be 1 test per month. If you go to www.takeielts.org, you will be able to see the upcoming dates that the test will be delivered at that site. We know that getting your scores quickly is very important to you personally, but also it's important to you that your receiving organization gets the score as soon as possible. So we do have an e-download service, and the results can be viewed online just 13 days after the test is completed. And finally, we accept the test fee in local currency, which means that you don't have to have a credit card to register for the test, and you don't have to worry about foreign exchange rates. This might be the most important slide in my presentation because it indicates the wide recognition and acceptance of Ielts in the United States. I've already mentioned that over 3,000 U.S. institutions do accept Ielts. However, within that 3,000 are the most elite and prestigious universities in the United States. For example, all 8 of the Ivy League schools do accept Ielts scores, and all 25 of the top institutions for enrolling international students also accept Ielts. That means the highest number of students going to the U.S. in the top 20, the highest 25 numbers of international students, all of those institutions do also accept Ielts. And then in the U.S., we have an organization called the American Association of Universities, which is made up of only 62 schools, and those schools are the most outstanding research universities in the United States, and 85% of the graduate schools at those institutions also accept Ielts scores. And then MIT is leading the trend in accepting Ielts in the United States because fully half of their graduate programs either require that you take Ielts and only Ielts, or they indicate that you can take any English test, but they strongly prefer that you do submit Ielts scores. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of screenshots from leading institutions in the United States to show what you would be seeing if you look on the websites for the universities that you are interested in terms of what Ielts score they are requiring. This is the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at the University of Michigan, and there they do require an overall total Ielts score of 6.5, but as you can see where this is circled here, they also indicate that they want a score of at least 6.5 in each of the 4 sections: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And this screenshot is for the master's program in supply chain management at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And you will see there under number 2 in the list of admission application requirements, and then at the bottom of the screenshot where it says IELTS test results, that IELTS is the only English test that they are accepting. So this is an example of one of those many graduate programs at MIT that is requiring that you take IELTS. In addition to those 3,000 colleges and universities in the U.S., there are also over 20 professional organizations and accrediting bodies in the U.S. that use IELTS scores. As you can see from the list, there is a variety of professional organizations as well as what we call state departments and national departments that are using IELTS. And the Commission on Graduates of Foreign Nursing Schools uses IELTS for their visa screen program as an example of a specific organization that is requiring IELTS scores. To find out about which of the schools that you are interested in or the organization that you need to submit scores to, you need to go to www.takeielts.org, and you can search for schools in general to find schools that accept IELTS, or you can search for specific schools in which you are interested to see if they are on the list and accept IELTS. Beyond that, it will indicate the score requirements for admission at that school. At the same time, at Take IELTS, you can actually book your test, and there are preparation materials that are free for your use. I'm going to be talking extensively about those in just a moment. Also, free assessment criteria, and then Take IELTS also has tips that are beyond what I'm going to be talking about today, specifically from English as a second language teachers who are familiar with IELTS and from students who have taken IELTS. So when you're ready to start your planning for taking the test and preparing for the test, the first thing you want to do is get to know the test, familiarize yourself with the test. So you need to understand what's going to be happening with each of the 4 sections: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And I'm going to be giving you some of that information shortly. And then you need to get to know the different types of questions that you may be asked when you take the test. It's important to remember that IELTS is not a multiple choice test only. We have short answer responses, summarizing that is required, fill in the blank, sentence completion, matching, and other types of responses to the questions. So the advantage to you is that if you have a strength in a particular type of test question, more than likely that is going to be coming up when you take the test, and knowing that you understand how those test questions operate hopefully will make you more comfortable in taking the test overall. Something else you should know about the test is the test format, and whether you are taking the academic or the general training module, the test is set up the same way. That is, that the listening, reading, and writing sections of the test are given back to back to back in the morning of the test day. Then there is a break for lunch, and then the speaking test is given in the afternoon. On occasion, the speaking test can be given up to a week before or after the other sections of the test, but either way, you are going to be going through a security check for each of those sessions of the test, the written portion and the speaking portion. The speaking test, which I'll be describing in just a moment, is designed to be reflective of a real world situation and conversation, and we know that one of the things that our candidates really, really like about the speaking test is that because it is a one-on-one interview, it is being given in a private room with just you and the examiner, and so it is quiet and you can concentrate and feel like you are carrying on that conversation. This is as opposed to other English language tests where you may be in a very large room with possibly 50 other candidates speaking into a microphone. And as you know, if you are leaving a message on a phone machine, it's very uncomfortable in a way to just be speaking without any response. Plus, if you're in a room with other people doing the same thing, that can be very distracting and stressful. So as I said, the speaking test is designed to be a realistic conversation. Because of that, you are able to show your real life communication skills, and that really is a major reason that the speaking test is so popular. The way the speaking test is set up, there are 3 parts to it, and it starts with what we call an interview and introduction, which means that you and the examiner introduce each other, and then the examiner asks you several very, very easy for you to answer questions, such as tell me about your family, or describe your hometown, or give me some information about your country. After that, we go into what is called the individual long turn, and it has several steps to it, starting with the examiner giving you a topic that you are going to be discussing. The topic will be something that you are familiar with, so you should be comfortable talking about it. Possible topics might be leisure time activities in your country, or the examiner might ask you to describe a person that you admire and indicate why you do admire that person. Then you are given a piece of paper and a pencil and 1 minute to jot down your ideas in response to that question, get your thoughts organized, and at the end of that period, then the examiner will tell you that you need to start speaking, and you should speak nonstop for 1 to 2 minutes. At the end of that period of time, the examiner is going to ask you a couple of follow-up questions, specifically regarding something you have said when you've been speaking, and then immediately go into the 3rd part of the speaking test, which is a complex discussion. The topic will be the same as what you talked about in the long turn, but now the discussion is going to be elevated to more abstract ideas about that topic. The final thing that you should know about the test itself is that we rate you on what we call a 9-point band score scale. And you can see here very brief descriptions of what the different bands mean, going from 1, which is a non-user, up to 9, which is an expert user. And in addition, we also have what we call half band scores. So you might be receiving a score of 5.5 or a score of 8.5. Hopefully you do get that 8.5 or 7. You should be aware that in the U.S., institutions may have additional requirements beyond the total overall score, such as the University of Michigan requiring section scores in addition. But beyond that, there are a variety of categories of test takers that universities might extend the requirements to. For example, if you are applying to an institution where you want to be a graduate teaching assistant, the requirement may be that you have a score of 7.0 for admission to that graduate school, but in addition, you are required to have a score of 7.5 if you are going to be a graduate teaching assistant, or if you are going to be a graduate teaching assistant where you will be a teacher, it may be indicated that you are required to have a 7.5 on the speaking test. Also, many institutions in the U.S. have different score requirements depending on the level of the education that you will be pursuing. So for example, if you are applying for undergraduate admission, the requirement could be 6.0, but for graduate admission it could be 6.5. And it may vary by discipline. So many law schools have much higher requirements on Ielts, ranging from 7.5 to 8.5, and that's because they believe that law and the Master of Law program, which you might be applying to, requires a high level of English language ability, whereas another discipline that does require specific English language skills, a program in English literature, may require a higher score than undergraduate admission overall if what you are applying to is English. So again, it might be 6.0 for admission as an undergraduate, but 6.5 if you are planning on majoring in English. So all of this detail about required scores does appear on takeielts.org, and so again, it is your source of important information. There are other things at takeielts.org which will help you in preparing for taking the test. There are numerous online preparation and assessment tools, and many of them are free, such as Road to Ielts Test Drive, which is a free e-learning and assessment tool, and it is free for 10 hours of use. So you can go today and use Road to Ielts Test Drive and use it for up to 10 hours. Then there is also a number of free practice tests on takeielts.org for each of the different sections: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And for the first three, the written portion of the test, reading, listening, and writing, you can actually download and print those tests, and we know that our candidates really like this aspect, because then they can take the test in a simulation of what they will be doing on the day of the test with the paper in front of them for taking the test. We also have an app which is free called Practice on the Go, and if you have a smartphone, you can go to your smartphone store and download Practice on the Go. Again, it is free, and what it is a word power or word improvement application. There are approximately 100 questions which are intended to help you in expand your vocabulary. And the neat thing about it is, because it's on your smartphone, you can be practicing for taking Ielts while you are on the bus or when you're on your lunch break. It's really a fun app, and so if you do have the opportunity to download it, I strongly recommend that you do that. Then finally, under the free category, at the time that you book your test with the British Council, you will then be given access to 20 more hours of free preparation and assessment tools. So the British Council is offering that to you as a reward for registering for the test with them. Then other things that are available from the British Council that do cost are published preparation materials and actual preparation courses. In each case, you can get more information about this at takeielts.org, or you may be able to get the information from your local testing site, and maybe even pick up the written materials at that time. So now I'm going to go into those top tips for taking IELTS, and what I'm going to be doing is going through each of the 4 sections and talk about the test and things that can help you while you are taking the test, but also mention things that you can do in preparation in terms of practice. Starting with the speaking test, it's important that you remember that we are not going to be grading you on your accent. So you can speak with an accent and you don't have to strive to speak with a British or American accent. But what you do need to do is speak as fluently as possible. You are going to be rated on how well the examiner is able to understand you. So speaking fluently with an accent is fine, but you need to speak to be understood. Then you want to speak extensively or expansively. So when you are talking, you want to have an overall theme and then develop that theme in terms of backing up what you are saying with examples. A way to sort of assess yourself as you go along and how good of a job you are doing of this is that the examiner is going to be asking you questions very briefly, but you want to respond more extensively than the examiner's questions. Remember that you can always ask for clarification during the test. That is permitted. And then what is not permitted is that you have prepared answers that you have memorized, because the examiner will spot that and then change the question. However, one of the things you can do in preparation, since you know that the beginning of the test is going to be an introduction, is to speak out loud, introducing yourself in a variety of ways so that you are comfortable with what you might say about yourself when you are questioned. Also, you are going to be asked what your opinion is. For instance, what is a person you admire? And you might be asked in the leisure time activities question why you think a particular leisure time activity is not popular in your country. So you're asking for your opinion and you need to express your opinion. And then you are going to be rated on your ability to back that opinion up with examples. Before the test, what you need to be doing is speaking English as much as you possibly can. If you have friends or colleagues who you can speak in English to, ask them if you can talk to them for a period of time every single day leading up to the test. Or if you have the opportunity to go into an English chat room, practice your English that way. Remember that the more you speak English, the more comfortable you will be at the time of the speaking test. And do speak out loud. Don't think about what you're going to be saying. Actually speak out loud, because that also prepares you better. For the writing test, since you are going to be assessed on your ability to write clearly and with a flow to what you are saying and connectivity, you want to use paragraphs in your writing, and the flow and theme of whatever you are writing can be best provided by putting one major idea in each paragraph and then backing that up with supporting information. Then you also want to have an overview at either the beginning or the end or both of your total writing sample. And in that, you want to have 1 or 2 sentences that summarize the major theme of what you are writing for answering the question. And speaking of the question, there will be 2 tasks on the writing test, one of requiring 150 words and the other 250 words. And we recommend that you spend about 20 minutes responding to the first task and 40 minutes to the second, but do bear in mind that you are not going to be reminded when you need to move on from task 1 to task 2. So there will be a large clock in the room, and you just need to keep your eye on that to make sure that you move on so that you have enough time to respond to both tasks. Also, program in several minutes at the end of the total hour so that you can reread what you have written and correct anything that you want to. You can erase, but you should make sure that you erase well and then write over that so that it is clearly understood. Also, just writing legibly throughout your task is very important, because remember, your writing is going to be graded by a human, and they need to be able to read what you have written. Also, a don't is don't write in bullets or in outline form or other short answer type responses, because you are going to be graded on your ability to write a narrative. And because this is the writing test, make sure that your spelling, grammar, and punctuation are correct, because you will lose points if you make mistakes. As with speaking, don't memorize your response or what you think would be a model answer. In this case, examiners are trained to spot rote answers, and your test will be invalidated if you are using something that you have memorized to bring in. In terms of pre-test preparation, just like with speaking, you want to write in English as much as possible. So write your emails in English if you have people you are corresponding with that can use English. If you have a personal blog, write that in English. And even use your social media, write in English there. Just write it as much as possible in English so that you are comfortable doing so. For the listening test, my first tip is a very important one, and that is, if you can't hear the audio in your ears, immediately let the test staff know this so that they can correct the problem. Don't try to struggle and listen to what you are hearing, because it may result in errors for when you are taking the test, and also will slow you down. And this test has a limited amount of time, so you want to be able to listen to those answers as quickly as possible. With the listening test, there are no penalties for incorrect answers, so try to answer every question that you have, even if that means a guess. But if you have no idea, don't linger over a particular question. Move on to the next one so that you don't waste time. Because you will be writing your answers again for a human grader, you want to be careful that your spelling and grammar are correct and that you are writing legibly. And if there are any time limits or word limits to a particular test question, then make sure that you follow those instructions. The way the listening test is set up, you will have before you both the question sheet and a separate answer sheet. And then you will be listening to the audio of the passages, and the questions are arranged in the same order as the answers will appear as you listen to the passage, so you can follow through. The answer sheet is separate, so as you hear the answers to particular questions, you can jot down your answers as you go along, because at the end of the test there will be a dedicated 10-minute period when you can transfer your answers that you have jotted down next to the questions onto the answer sheet. Listening is, again, important to prepare for by listening to English language as much as possible, and there are all sorts of opportunities for doing this. You can listen to TV programs on the BBC if you have access to that, or CNN is another good source, or if you have access to commercial stations in the United States. Also, look at YouTube videos where English is being spoken, and movies, English-speaking movies are another easy way to practice listening. But if you do that or any place else where subtitles in your language are being added, don't look at the subtitles. Just listen and pick up on your English language listening skills that way. As I mentioned, the English listening portion will be using speakers with British, Australian, and North American accents, so if you have the opportunity for listening to speakers with those different accents, that will help prepare you for what you'll be hearing when you take the test. With the reading test, it is important to remember that you want to get through the reading passages, of which there will be 3, so that you can get the total meaning of whatever you are reading, rather than lingering over each and every word and trying to understand each and every word. So skimming reading is an important skill to develop, and if you aren't familiar with skimming, then what that means really is that you read very quickly and you are able to pick out the important parts of the reading passage by looking at titles and headings for the passage, and then anything that is used for emphasis, for important features, such as capital letters, underlining, bolding, italics, demonstrating something with a graph or a table. Any of that helps you pick out what are the most important features and points of the passage that you are reading. When you are transferring your answers, when you're filling out your answers, and this time it is not transferring to a separate sheet, it is the question sheet has a place for you to put the answers. If you are using the specific words from the reading test, if that's part of the answer is requiring you to use those words, make sure that you copy them precisely from what is in the text that you have read, because you will be marked on your accuracy of transferring those words to the answer sheet. Make sure that you do precisely what you are asked to do in the completion questions, and again, pay attention to any word limits that are given, and this is another place where there are no penalties for incorrect answers, so go ahead and try to guess an answer, but don't linger over any particular questions, just like with the writing section, and do check your answers, but this time, unlike writing or listening, you won't have a dedicated 10 minutes at the end, so you need to set aside time yourself to check your answers. There are lots of potential resources for you for pre-test preparation for reading newspapers and magazines that are in English, or the internet is a great resource to find many different pages that are written in English. But do read as much as possible. You want to increase your vocabulary, and so you can write down words that you know the meaning, you have learned the meaning of, and go through that list again and again, or use that app that I talked about on the go, so that you can work on increasing your vocabulary and understanding the meaning of different words. For a successful test day, meaning that we want you to have a good experience when you take the test, but also end up with a good score on the test, there are a number of things that you should remember. First of all, do arrive early. Make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to go through the check-in. It is an extensive process, and so you want to get there to make sure that you are able to get through that process. That means that your stress will be decreased because you're not worrying about whether you're there in time. And also, you should be aware that it is at the discretion of the test center to not permit you to take tests if you arrive late. You should receive a follow-up notice from the test center once you have actually booked your test, with details about the test day, including the time that you should arrive. But if you don't get that within a week of when the test is going to be given, then do contact the test center directly to get that information. You need to bring the ID that you used for registering for the test with you, and it should be valid. Either the passport or the national identity card needs to have been valid both on the day that you booked the test and the day that you are taking the test. And in this case, if you don't have your ID with you, you will not be able to take the test that day. As I've indicated, you'll be writing with pens and pencils, and you might need an eraser, so make sure that you bring a supply of those with you. On the other hand, don't bring things such as valuables or books, or if you have a mobile device or anything electronic like an iPad, because if you have them with you, the test center staff will take them away from you and store them in a secure place for you to pick up after the test is over. So you might as well not bring them with you at all. Be sure to listen to the instructions as you go through check-in and as you enter the room for taking the test, and the instructions for each of the sections of the test. And then do try to stay calm, because if you are calm, you are going to do your best job in taking the test. A little hint that I was given long ago that is actually backed up by psychological research is if you smile, that relaxes you. So try smiling, and maybe that will calm those nerves. I'm going to review just once again some of the tips that I've already gone over to emphasize certain points, starting with the British Council has all sorts of practice materials and assessment tools. Many of them are free. If you do take advantage of those, do the practice test under timed conditions so that you get a feeling for what it's going to be like to sit down and take that test. You also have a number of books and materials that you can buy and pay for the British Council preparation courses. You can use www.takeielts.org for test day advice such as I have given you, but it will be more extensive, as will the tips section on takeielts.org with more extensive tips. It's very important to remember that the staff at the British Council are totally committed to providing you with not just quality service, but personal service and friendly service. We want you to do well in the test, and we have many ways to ensure that, from the point at which you are asking for practice and assessment materials to all of the test staff. Everything is done to make it as positive an experience for you as possible. Also, we know how important getting those scores to your institutions are. So whether they are getting paper score report forms or the e-download reports, the service is free to them, which means that paying to get your scores on the part of the institution or organization is not an impediment. And then if they are using the e-download service, that gives you the fastest test results delivery possible, just those 13 calendar days. And then if you go to the Who Accepts IELTS section on takeielts.org, it's the quickest and easiest way to find out which institutions will accept your scores and what those score requirements are. So we say that IELTS puts people first, and I hope that the information that I have provided today is one of those ways that we are helping you to do your best on the test. IELTS is the test for work, study, and life. And if you had any questions, I see that there have been a few questions coming in. I'm going to respond to them for a few minutes right now, and then at the end of our time together, which is at the top of the hour, I encourage you very much to go to the chat room where there will be staff to answer all of the questions that have not been, that I am unable to answer now, and they will be there for several hours. My final salute to you is we hope that you do well on the test. We want to see very high scores from all of you. The resources are there from the British Council through takeielts.org, and the best of luck to you on taking the test. Now I am going to answer some of these questions for the time that is remaining. This is a really good question. Someone has asked if they should use British spellings or American spellings when they are writing out their answers. The answer to that is that you can use either. The important thing is that whichever you use, you spell the words correctly. But we have no preference, and we will accept either British or American spellings. Okay. Another question is, can I take the test on the computer? Right now, the answer to that is no. IELTS is a paper and pencil test with the live speaking test, and actually the research that the University of Cambridge has done on the test shows that students do prefer a paper and pencil test for high-stakes tests such as an English language test. So it's a benefit to you. You don't have to worry about whether you are familiar with the keyboard at a test center, or whether the computer might break down. And so that is a way to decrease your stress level while you are taking the test, because you are in control. And so hopefully you will find the paper and pencil test amenable for you. Let's see. Here's a question. How much time can I use to prepare for the Ielts exam? I think that the question is asking how much preparation time do I need? The answer to that really is up to you, or to any of those of you who are watching, in that you need to progress in your English language ability, and then use those assessment tools that I've been referring to and see what scores you receive. And when you start receiving scores that are high enough for admission to the institution that you are interested in applying to, that's when you have prepared enough. So as I indicated, in the U.S., the scores that institutions, colleges, and universities are looking for are in the range of 5 to 8, and when you start falling in that range, then it might be time to actually take the test. I'm scrolling through the questions. There have been several that are basically the same of the 3 that I've already answered. Let's see here. I see. Hello, Dalipa. I assume that you are watching, and you're saying, are the materials free only for today? And the answer to that is no. The materials that I've been talking about that are free beyond today. When I said that you could go in right now and use those materials for free, that just meant that immediately they were available, but they will be continuously available. Thank you so much for asking that clarification question. Here's a question wanting to know how to register for a June test, and where the test is available in Nigeria, and then also is interested in preparation materials. I hope that you got the answer to all of those questions in what I was saying regarding what is online at takeielts.org. If you go to Nigeria, you can see what cities in Nigeria the test is offered in. Look at the one that is closest to you, and you will see if there are tests being offered in June and instructions on how to register. You may be able to register online, but that will be indicated. If you really want to take the test in June and the closest city to you is already completely booked for its June test, then I suggest you look at some of the other cities in Nigeria and see if they have places available and you can travel to those cities. And with the preparation materials, as I've mentioned several times, your best bet there is for going to takeielts.org. Here is a question wanting to know if the speaking test is the same day, and as I indicated, in most cases it is. It takes place in the afternoon of the same day as the 3 written portions, which take place in the morning. But on occasion, under special circumstances, the speaking test might be offered up to 7 days before the other 3 sections, or within 7 days following the 3 sections. And by the way, your test results will not be available until all 4 parts of the test have been completed. So when I say that the results will be available in 13 calendar days, I am meaning that 13 calendar days after all 4 sections of the test have been completed. I see now that my time is up, and so I am again referring you to the chat room for the British Council. They will continue offering your questions for several hours from here on out. And so I'm signing off now, thanking you very much for your attention and for being such a good audience. And again, best of luck when you take Ielts. Thank you and goodbye.